Hi everyone. Just gotta put my headphones on. Hi everyone. Oh, good. Folks are coming in. Hi, my name is Abella. I am the Director of Digital Content and Partnerships at the One Love Foundation. And we have a couple guests joining, so I'm gonna wait for them to come in. Hi. Hi everyone who's joining. Sydney and Ariana, if you will just send me, there we go. Wonderful. Ariana. Hi, everyone who's joining. Again, my name is Abella. I am the Director of Digital Content and Partnership of One Love Foundation.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. I'm so happy to have you. Sydney is just about to join us as well.
I'm so excited.
Oh, good. It's going to be a really, really fun conversation. For all of you who are joining us, hey, Sydney.
Hi.
We are here to talk about the unhealthy behaviors that happen over our phones, which is also like our third arm, like our just this thing that we have with us all the time. And I think that oftentimes when people think about abuse, they think about stuff that is physical, stuff that leaves a mark or a bruise. But actually, abuse can happen in a lot of different ways, including things that are done or said over text, DM, comments. And so, whenever unhealthy behaviors happen on our phones, because it is such a personal thing, and because it's a direct line to us that we have on us all the time, it can feel really lonely and overwhelming to experience certain kind of unhealthy or even abusive behaviors over our phone. So that's why One Love exists. That's where we come in. Our newest campaign is called Unhealthy Connections. And it's all about shedding light on the toxic behaviors that happen on our phones. So you two, Ariana and Sydney, are here today to talk about your reactions and thoughts on unhealthy digital behaviors. And we'll get into a little bit about the PSA and the campaign as well. But first of all, why don't you guys introduce yourselves and let me know if they're do I need to call you by a nickname, or is it what do you need me to be calling you? So whoever wants to go first can jump right in.
I guess I can start.
Great.
So, hi everybody. I'm Sydney. I'm currently a senior in college, and I've been involved with One Love. This is now my third year with One Love, and I'm excited to be here to talk with you both and everybody who's watching.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Sydney.
I'm Ari. I prefer Ari.
Perfect.
I use they, them pronouns. I am currently in my third semester of college, and I've been working with One Love for about 3 years now as well.
Wow, some old timers with us. This is perfect. You guys are going to be, I think, really well equipped to answer these questions about them. And my first question, and Ari, I'll kick it to you. What are some of the most common unhealthy digital behaviors you notice amongst your friends, your peer group? Like, what are the unhealthy behaviors you're seeing out there?
Definitely blowing up somebody's phone is
Mm,
a huge, huge one of if they're not answering or not answering fast enough. I understand we all get those jitters of like, oh, like what if something happened or something,
mhm,
but intentionally blowing up somebody's phone because you got an answer that you didn't like, or they're just
mm.
not answering fast enough, or you just constantly keep going. It's just very unhealthy.
Yes, absolutely. And I love how you're saying you're making a distinction between, and no, it's not that you're worried about me, is that you didn't get the answer you liked or I'm not answering fast enough. That's so good. Sydney, what about you? What are some of the most common unhealthy behaviors you noticed?
Yeah, I would for sure say like the frequency of texting or like calling, whether or not it be like way too much or just like not enough, i.e., like ghosting somebody, like
Hmm.
just like kind of using like things like that you send between each other as like kind of like weapons or warfare. So like sending like screenshots of like your discussions, like pictures, things like that, and just like kind of threatening you like with those like tools, like to kind of make your life worse, like in
Yeah.
order like for them to get you to do something.
And that's something that was never possible when it was just, old landline phones. You didn't have receipts in that way. And now it's like things that you said or did or texted way back when can come up and be used against you. I love how you said weaponize it against you. It's really, really interesting. What do you think makes these behaviors so common? Sorry, I kick it to you.
Well, obviously, it's something I advocate for all the time. There's not enough education of what is healthy and what isn't healthy, what the etiquette of relationships are, whether it's intimate relationships, family relationships, friendships, anything. There's no etiquette taught. There's no boundaries that are taught. You have to make them yourself and figure it out. And obviously, it's going to take that little bit of time to figure that out for yourself. But even then, there's still those things that you should probably be taught a little bit about, and it's not taught at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it's not taught and you see other people doing it around you, you think, oh, okay, this is how you're supposed to be. This is how it's supposed to be. This is how you show up in relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Sydney, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I also think like that a big like thing that can often like kind of exacerbate things is the difference in knowledge between generations. Just because like one thing like that I see very often is like, for example, like it like with policy in instances of like of like revenge porn, like for example, the people who are making the policy like to make that illegal can barely like even use like a iPhone or a laptop, like let alone understand the like the details and nuances like that go into things like that. And I think like that just like with what can happen a lot with digital partnerships and relationships, like
Yeah.
very often like teens and kids like go to their parents for guidance, whereas like with conventional relationships, like sure you can ask them for advice, but with digital ones, like parents often like don't know how to even use their own phones, let alone navigate like these whole different types of relationships. So I feel like that kind of discrepancy in knowledge can also make it more difficult to not only navigate relationships, but like get advice from trusted sources.
Sydney, so good. So good. Along those lines, and I'll kick it back to you, Sydney, then, you talked about how because this generational difference in how to help but parents not necessarily knowing how to help their children or the people that they care about because they just didn't have that technology when they were growing up. But oftentimes we'll hear something peer to peer. So one of our campaigns features a woman named Ruth, and her partner is asking her to send nude photos. And we got a lot of comments from people who saw that campaign, like on social media. They'd write in the comments like, just block him, just block them, right? And that's a peer giving another peer advice. And so I'm curious what you think, Sydney, about that advice, whether it's someone asking for nudes, whether it's like what Ari said about like blowing up your phone. What do you think of the advice of just block them?
I mean, having been in those situations in the past, like, sure, like it's a solution, but it's like kind of just saying like, oh, I'm sad. Okay, well, don't be. Like it's giving that because like very often like just block them isn't going to be effective, because while you may have that relationship like online, you also might see them in person as well. Like so like you can't block somebody in real life. And on top of that, I feel like what mainly adults don't kind of seem to understand particularly is that sending things like pictures in that way of yourself are often seen as currency in relationships these days. And so like
say more about that.
And so just kind of being like, hey, don't send those pictures, like doing those types of things is normalized with people our age. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think like just telling like teens of that age range, like, hey, like just like don't send nudes or like block them is very dismissive of like the interactions like that people our age experience. And
Mm,
I feel like things like that are just kind of par for the course with people our age. And so more so, instead of just saying, hey, don't do it, it's better to kind of accept like that, hey, this is going to happen, so here's
yeah,
a better or right way, if you will, to handle it, instead of just
yeah,
saying, hey, don't do it at all.
yeah. Oh my gosh, you bring up so many good points. Sid, or sorry, Ari, what's your reaction to that? What would be good advice for someone who is experiencing being asked for nudes or being their phones being blown up? What is better advice than just block them?
Definitely have like a flat out conversation with the person, be like,
Mm,
hey, like, I don't feel really comfortable sending you those photos of myself. Um, I don't know personally like what you might want to do with that. Like, something may happen that I'm not comfortable with.
yeah.
Obviously, it's not always the way that it works, unfortunately. You can't, not every time that somebody says, oh, I'm sorry, like, I'm not comfortable with that, always works. There's still that like chance that someone's still going to beg and beg and beg until you give in. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, that's become such a common thing of, oh, well, if I just like keep asking and keep asking and keep asking,
Yeah,
they'll eventually give in. I'll just wear
yeah,
down those walls a little bit.
yeah,
Definitely, it is hard to give advice on those kinds of things because everybody has a different reaction. Somebody
yeah.
might find blocking them a valid response and a valid reaction, where somebody else could be like, hey, like, maybe you need to sit down and have a conversation with them and be like, I'm not comfortable with this, or hey, I'm busy, I don't appreciate you blowing up my phone right now, I will
Hmm.
talk to you when I can.
Yeah.
But again, not always using those get the point across, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And, as much as we're talking to the person on the receiving end of that behavior, like the person, what do I do if someone's blowing up my phone? I also want to talk to the person that's doing the blowing up of the phone, or the person that's asking for the content that the other person doesn't want to give. Like, stop, move on. The person doesn't want to do it, right? So, like, go ask someone else. Maybe someone else wants to give you those photos, or maybe somebody else loves, like, constant texting, and then go find that person and be happy with that person. But it's like, it shouldn't be on me as the one, like, kind of on the receiving end to figure out how do I get this person to respect my boundaries. It's like, why would someone want to be with someone where you have to constantly blow up their phone, or you have to constantly be asking them to send photos that they don't want to send you? Go find someone that wants to give you that stuff, right? And let's all be happy. That's my take on that. But I think you guys are giving really good advice, and I'd love to hear your perspective on another one of our PSAs, which is Mario. So the Mario scene is one where a young man is in relationship with a woman who is really intense, really volatile in her text towards him. And we got a lot of comments. Again, all of these PSAs were on social media, and so we've been getting a lot of comments from people, and a lot of people find the Mario situation really relatable, which is surprising because we often think that men aren't on the receiving end of abuse. Frankly, we have a very one-dimensional view of abuse, right? That it's in a heterosexual relationship, and it's always man perpetrating on woman. And so I'm just curious about just thoughts on kind of opening our eyes on all the various ways that abuse can show up in various types of romantic relationships and various dynamics.
Yeah, I think that particularly like with our generation, like we're kind of and like I don't mean like to sound like a boomer here, but like we're kind of the generation of instant gratification, in the sense
Mm,
of like for almost our entire lives we've grown up with kind of being able like to get anything that we want like that through
Yeah.
like things like Amazon, Google, like whatever, things like that. And so shifting that over like to relationships, there's often like this wave of kind of entitlement, like, hey, if I want your time, your attention, things like that, I should be able to get it.
Oh,
And
interesting.
when you kind of take that into a toxic lens, like it often can manifest in that way. But kind of shifting over to like men also being able like to be the victims of abuse, like for sure. Like whenever I do workshops at my school, I always say like, okay, watch what both parties are doing. It's not just about the guy. Like it, both people like can do incredibly toxic things in a partnership, and you need to like let go of those misconceptions of abuse like that you may have, because you may run into somebody like that is experiencing that. And if you like want to be a good resource, you can't have any preconceived notions of like what abuse is. You want to make them feel heard. And so I feel like for all ages, like just kind of being able to take a step back and just kind of forget everything that you think you know about abuse and just like stay open is incredibly important, like to not only better educate yourself, but be a better resource if somebody in your life does want to talk to you about things like that.
Oh, that's so good, Sydney. Ari, what's coming up for you?
There definitely is a bias in when people talk about abuse. It's always what you see and what you hear is the man perpetrating a woman. That's why, like, recently over the summer when the whole like Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing came out, it was one of the biggest trials that everybody was watching, because he had the courage to speak up and be honest about what he experienced. And unfortunately, not a lot of men get that confidence or ability to speak up, because people just play it off as a, oh, well, maybe she's just has an attitude, or she just has this, or she just has that. It's just in your head, bro. Like all of these preconceived notions of men can't experience abuse. And while maybe it's not always physical abuse, it's mostly mental abuse. So they don't get that the same opportunity, unfortunately, to be heard as a lot of other sexes and gender identities do, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And, you know, speaking of digital abuse, it's really then easy to emotionally abuse, verbally abuse someone with your phone digitally, right? So it's a really nice tool. And men are just on the receiving end of that. And it's also a nice tool to keep it secret, because they're not coming up with they're not showing up with bruises, but their phone is like a torture chamber, essentially, you know? So that's really good point. You know, I'm thinking about our third PSA, which is a character, Stephanie. And Stephanie's arguing with her partner. The partner doesn't like that Stephanie liked a certain person's post and is accusing Stephanie of cheating. And she's like, you need to, well, then just unlike their posts, stop following them. Like, what, you know, why are you doing this? And in order to prove that she's not cheating, you kind of get the sense that Stephanie gives in, that she unlikes the post, unfollows the friend, whatever, even though she wasn't cheating. And I'm curious your thoughts on what would make someone do that versus just leave the partner, break up? Why don't people who are experiencing these behaviors just break up with their unhealthy partner?
I mean, just kind of speaking from experience, I'm a bit more forgiving on this PSA, just because like I know that there are some people who may have certain triggers based on past experiences. Like, for example, I won't like get into my past, like, but based off of my experience with a abusive ex-partner, one of my main triggers, like for a while, was like horseback riding. And like any mention like that my current partner like made, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go like horseback riding like with so and so, that like that would like just like set me off, and like, I couldn't handle it. And so to the average person, like that may seem very, very strange, but it's like we don't know like what Stephanie's ex-partner may have had in their past to make that thing a trigger possibly for them. Now, like obviously for the partner, there's healthier ways to convey that and communicate that with their partner. But I also feel like just in terms of, oh, just calling it and leaving, very often like it's not that easy, because like when you're in a relationship like with somebody, very often, whether it be like your emotions or your circumstances, it's never just as easy as, oh, just leave. Whether it be like your finances, your emotions, what have you, it's rarely ever that easy. And so I feel like to a lot of people, it's more worth it to like sit down and have that conversation than like just end things off. Or in this case of the PSA, just kind of pick your battles in the sense of, if Stephanie's partner, like if this is like a big thing for them, okay, fine, like it's whatever. Like if it's not a hill that Stephanie is willing to die on, I don't see an issue with like compromising in that way. But if it becomes a more serious issue, like I think that a conversation like to talk about what that partner might be experiencing, like why they feel like the need to express this, is definitely like warranted if it's a hill that like that Stephanie would be willing to die on or not.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's just it's not worth it sometimes. Interesting. Ari, what's your take on that? Why don't people just leave?
As someone who has been in mostly unhealthy relationships throughout all of romantic relationships that they've been in, it's not that easy. You grow attached to these people. You think that these people are going to change, that these behaviors are just who they are and what just comes with the relationship, and that you just need to deal with it no matter what. It's not as simple as many times as I've heard, well, why don't you just leave?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why it's that hard. If they're truly doing these things and they're hurting you and you're not happy, why don't you just leave? It's never that easy for a person. It's never just a simple, okay, I'm done, bye.
Yeah.
It's maybe they plan to move in together soon. Maybe they like had all these plans, or they have already done these things, and it's okay, do I deal with the bit of unhappiness and unhealthiness, or do I lose the life that I have?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not that easy to just give up the life that you had or wanted to have.
You wanted to have. Yeah.
Yeah. You could have these preconceived notions of, well, this is the person that I'm going to spend my life with, or they made those promises to you, or they make the promises of, oh, I'll be better, I'll do better for you, for us, and then it just doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. Yeah. There's a whole human behind all of these situations. Never is it as like the stereotypes that we see depicted, right? Which is one of the reasons why I love One Love, because we really do try to get into the complexity of these situations. It's not that easy. It's not just block them. It's not just leave them. There's a whole human behind both of these things. And relationships aren't black and white. It's not always bad. Sometimes it's really fun and wonderful. And you have so much, I love, Ari, the way you put it, you have these hopes for this relationship and for your life, you know, but also something that you said that broke my heart was, it's like, well, maybe this is just one of the things that I have to put up with. And I just want to, as we close out, to message that we all deserve healthy relationships that make us feel good. And one of the through lines throughout all of your answers that I heard was communication, that you should talk to your partner. If you are dating someone and they make you feel jealous or they make you feel insecure, then have a conversation with them. use your words, have a conversation with them. Because all these people who are doing unhealthy things, they deserve healthy relationships too. So have a conversation with your partner. And if you're on the receiving end of unhealthy behaviors, know that it's not just the cost of doing business, that you don't have to put up with unhealthy behaviors just to be in a relationship, and that you should date your reality, not your potential. Any other closing thoughts before I let you guys go? This conversation has been so fun. You guys are both so wise. Anything you want to say to close out?
I would just echo everything that you just said. Definitely communicate like with your partner. And also I always like to say to be kind to yourself, like, because nobody is perfect. Like, so if you do something unhealthy, like, you're not a forever terrible partner. Like, you're not undeserving of love. What matters is how you approach it after it, and like how you try to better yourself after possibly doing anything unhealthy, because nobody is perfect. I certainly do unhealthy things from time to time, but the important thing for sure is how you come back from it, and how you try every day to be a better partner, a better person, or a better friend.
I love it. Thanks, Sydney. Ari, anything?
I always close every time I get to have a conversation with One Love. I always close out with the same thing of nobody's alone. Everybody deserves happiness. You may not feel like that right now.
Yeah.
You may feel like absolute garbage and feel like you deserve this and you have done everything wrong and this is why this is happening.
Right.
But everybody deserves happiness. Everybody deserves to have a partner or friend or family that they can feel loved and joy and have fun with all the time, instead of just some of the time. There are people in your corner rooting for you, wanting to help you. There are resources out there. There are many, many people willing to listen. It's just the matter of taking that scary step of reaching out and saying, I need help. This is not okay.
Oh, you guys are so good. Everything that you said, underline, exclamation point, all of it. Thank you for being so wise and so caring. You can tell that you really do just want people to be in healthy relationships. So for anyone that wants to learn more, you can visit our website at joinonelove.org. You'll find our 10 signs of a healthy relationship and 10 signs of an unhealthy relationship, in case you're curious about the health of your relationship. And also, if you need help, if you find yourself in an unhealthy situation, you can find it at joinonelove.org/help. Sydney, Ari, thank you so much. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.